Hey there, and thanks for hanging out with us and viewing what is really the fruit of a lot of work by myself, the rest of the trainers, as well as Vera. The purpose of this is the redesign of Module 6. Now, this is really the heart and soul of what we teach as far as sales presentation and how to convey really how to have a business conversation, open up conversation and bring it to a close at the end. We have done things here, or the goal is to basically take the 8-step sales story and enhance it. We want to increase knowledge retention. We don't want we want to take away mystery, but also really help with retention and understanding of what the concepts that we're teaching are. We want to use different modalities. The goal is to make this more interactive. The more paths of learning people have to get to a subject, the more this is going to stick in their minds. And of course, that is the ultimate goal here. And we want to, of course, emphasize value throughout this in the whole business conversation. So those are the goals of the redesign. And so the ways we're going to be doing that is we're going to start out in Module 6 with a party scene. The goal is to start with something that everyone would know about and to build off of that. We want to use existing knowledge. We will be taking those 8 steps. We're not getting rid of them. We're breaking it into 3 distinct parts, and we'll talk about that. The goal with this is to make recall a whole lot easier and to help them in their minds, especially someone who's never done this before, to be able to map in their mind, I should be doing this first, this second, and this is where I'm going to end. And of course, the goal is to get them to understand and memorize our story, our script, and this is one of those things that if we can have a concept of it, that would help out. So we're going to demonstrate them all together. Then we're going to teach each of these 3 parts individually, and without removing the 8 steps from our process. We're going to have them in groupings and teach each of these groupings individually, and then bring them back together again. One of the great advantages to this is that later on, if someone is not proficient at one of the parts that we're about to go through, then we can, as an instructor, as a coach, we can send them back and say, hey, go practice on your introduction, or let's get better at the middle part, which is a conversation, or you really need to tighten down on your solution and close. And so we'll have modules broken down that deal with that specific part. And we do find, I've found over the last couple of years plus that I've done this, that those are the 3 areas where we'll have someone deficient at a whole area like that. So very interesting. We are going to have a strong emphasis on value as well as engaging questions and having business conversation. So actually listening to other people and having business conversation. So let's go ahead and get started in what we're talking about. And of course, I'm not going to be able to drill in as deeply as I would in a classroom scenario, but the hope is that you'll be able to gain an understanding and a comfort of maybe the theory of what's going on and see overall what we'd like to teach. So here it comes. Module 6, really this is going to start out with the objective. So I'll do this mainly from the perspective of a teacher. Again, it's going to be a bit in fast-forward motion, so excuse me if I go too quickly. I think you understand why that would happen. So you will have in front of you, I'll be going back and forth between that slideshow and then a Word document, which you will be supplied as well, so that I'll give instructions and then I'll say, here's a document, you should read that. And so you'll see those instructions. It should be noted that, of course, this is not mature as far as visually. We certainly would want to make sure that the marketing team or someone who had more time and talent than I do to make sure that this looks good. So I just wanted to make sure that this is conceptual only, and a lot of rough edges, very rough edges would be pulled off this. So without further ado, let's go ahead and go through this Module 6. So everyone, welcome to Module 6. With this module, you're going to understand the essentials of personal conversation versus business conversation, what really we would call here in a lot of cases transactional business. We want you to understand the parts of a sales conversation. We're going to practice having a scripted sales conversation. That's right, we do use a script here, but don't worry, we're not going to remove your brain and make you a mindless robot. We're going to examine all of these parts of our sales story and help you to understand what they're about and hopefully assist you in memorizing the script. You're the actor, and this is going to be your script. And then we're going to do what everyone loves doing. We're going to role play these, and what a great way to practice and get your skills going in the right direction. So we do a lot of that here at the company. So let's talk about, first off, a regular conversation. So you're at a party and you see a stranger, there's nothing else happening there, so you might as well go talk to a stranger. What's the very first thing that you would do? Audience participation here. Of course, someone is going to say, I would introduce myself. I would say hi. I would shake hands. And so, exactly. So my part again. You would introduce yourself. Perfect. What happens next? Crowd response. Well, yes, you probably would try to find common ground. And the way that we do that is a lot of times you would share a little bit about yourself, but you can't just sit there talking about yourself and droning on and on and on. Is there anyone here that would enjoy talking or interacting with someone such as this? No. Conversation is really the name of the game, and the idea would be you would ask questions. That's right. You would ask questions of the other person, and as you're asking questions, what you're doing is you're pulling out of them their story, who it is that they are, and you probably do this without even realizing. You probably are saying, okay, in your memory banks, like, is there anything I have in common with that? Do I do anything similar? And if I do, those are usually the things that we would share, things that would be valuable to the other person, right? And so we go through this conversation. Eventually, the conversation comes to an end. Maybe it's time for whatever at the party. The conversation comes to an end. You don't just you don't turn around and walk away, right? We're going to come up with an end to our conversation. You're going to say bye, or maybe you hit it off with that person and you want to meet at an art exhibit or something. And so there is either a decision to part ways in a cordial way to say goodbye, or maybe there's a decision to say, you know what, let's join together in partnership and go to that art show. I think that we would appreciate that together, or let's get the kids together. I think we have a lot in common. Does this sound familiar? If you haven't been in a scenario like this, would you maybe say that you've seen this on TV? Can you imagine that this is the way that it would work? So if you understand this cold conversation with someone you didn't know, then you understand already a lot about sales conversation. Now the difference is, well, we'll go through the differences today. That's the goal. So let's go ahead and do this right now. Let's go ahead and read page 1, and I want to discuss what's going on after that. So I'll give you a few minutes. Of course, everyone would read through page 1, and then we would discuss. Well, the great thing is, guys, is that we have broken down, coming back from the discussion, the great thing is we've broken down the mad scientists here in the Naylor Laboratory. Actually, it's people in the sales profession at large have broken down what a standard sales conversation should be. It actually is very similar to your party conversation. First, there's an introduction. All right, it tells who you are. It tells why you're calling, and gives a description of what it is that you have to offer. Then there's a conversation. Just like in the scenario with the party, it doesn't feel good for someone to just continue to talk about themselves, but it's good when someone gives you a chance to express who you are and what's important to you. Well, that's what's happening here in the conversation. Actually, during this time It's very interesting. I like to call this the dance, because you can't really tell sometimes who is leading and who's not. And then finally, the solution and close. This is the very reason that your call even was initiated, because you felt like you might have a solution that would benefit that person. So in quick form, it would be, hello, here's who I am, here's what I'm offering. Is this something that maybe we can talk about? And let's get rid of the maybes. That's not good language to use here. Then there's a conversation. Really, we're trying to see if this fits. There is a dance and there's a give and take, an ebb and flow of everything that's going on here. And at the end of that conversation, where there's questions asked and answered, then there's a solution that you present. And the close, which is you basically bringing the conversation to an end, saying, is this something that would work for you? Let me take you through a sample script of how this would sound in a Naylor conversation. I will play both parts. I will play myself, and I will play the customer. All right? Here we go. Ring, ring. Hello, this is Donnie. Can I help you? Yeah, hey, Donnie. It's Donnie Tuttle giving you a call from Naylor regarding the AGC of Louisiana, the Associated General Contractors. How are you doing? Introduction. I'm doing okay. How are you? Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you very much for asking. Donnie, I'm giving you a call. Again, I'm sure you're familiar. Do you know who the AGC is? Well, yeah, sure. We're a little bit familiar. Well, great. Then I'm sure you're familiar. We're 4 out of 5 of the commercial and industrial contractors doing the majority of the building across the state. We're companies like Tuttle & Sons, Sam Simon Enterprises, Dave Glass Company, just to name a few. And I wanted to find out, Donnie, do you do a lot of work with commercial and industrial contractors? So I'm still right here in this introduction. I've introduced myself and the association. Yeah, sure, we do work with commercial and industrial contractors. Great, great. I'm glad to know that. The reason I'm asking, Donnie, and now I'm here to purpose and description, is because I handle a resource that goes out to our members. It's how we network with each other. It's also how our members find the quality providers of products and services that we need to run our businesses on a continual basis. It's called the Membership Directory and Buyer's Guide, and really the goal was to see if you are a fit. Now, I'm calling you because you're an electrician that looks, again, you work with commercial industrial contractors. I wanted to find out, if this is a fit for you. We're going to be working with just 2 more electrical contractors. Donnie, can you tell me what it is you're doing right now to reach out to this industry? And by the way, that was the introduction, a little break from there. Introduction, I have to qualify myself to have a conversation with this other guy. And I'll get back to that in a minute. So back to our conversation. And the question was, what are you doing right now to reach out to this group? Well, I mean, what we're doing is we have a sales team. We also, we go to a trade show here and there as well, golf event, but mainly sales team. Hey, Donnie, I appreciate that. I think a sales team is a wonderful way to get in front of the commercial and industrial contractors. It's all about relationships here. And again, I'm in this questions, and I'm going into this WIFMs. WIFM is what's in it for me. We talked about that earlier. It's the value portion of what we're talking about. And I'm going to give a specific WIFM that would be needed by this other person as in accordance to what they feel is important. Donnie, one of the great things about this is our members tend to do business with people long term, and so to be able to have a repeat customer, I'm sure that's what you're about. That's what we're about as well with the Louisiana AGC. Can you tell me, as far as I see that you offer a few different varieties of glass. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're offering to the commercial and industrial contractors as a whole? Well, I mean, we have some reflective glass solutions, things that are keeping energy bills down. Also, some shatterproof glass to help in areas where, let's just say, that security might be an issue. Perfect, Donnie. That's the type of stuff that our members would be very interested in hearing about. I'm still right here in this conversation part. You know, we're companies like David Glass Company, Donnie Tuttle Enterprises, and Sam Simon Builders. We're the ones doing the majority of the building, and obviously those are happening in all kinds of different areas. Those type of glass solutions will be very important for our members to know about and to hear. Again, we're doing more than $4 billion worth of building in your area alone, and you know, I feel like that your story is something that would resonate with our members. Now I'm going to get into a little bit more questions. So, Donnie, when you advertise, or if you advertise, do you tend to normally do a larger presence? How do you normally like to be seen, or what perception do you normally like to give with that? Well, I mean, for us, again, it's all about our sales team. You know, so it's just as long as we're seen, it doesn't really. We want our guys out there in the field to do most of the work. Perfect. Well, to let you know, also, we do have a great scenario here for your sales team. As an advertiser with us, you actually do get a copy of the publication, so you can give it to your sales guys, and they can reach out to our members because our members' information is included here, and our members are told to expect a call from our members and supporters such as yourself. So what a great lead source. And you know, you said that you like to be seen. You know, to give you an idea of what that would cost, I'd recommend a half page or a quarter page. I think you have a lot to say, and I think the imagery on your website would really fit well in a half a page or a quarter of a page. So now sizes and prices, solution and close. And so what I would suggest would be a half page, quarter page. The half page price is $1349.50. The quarter page price is $749.50. Now this is going to be in front of create urgency, rebuild value, in front of the decision-making powers of this industry for an entire year. This is, again, who we're turning to find the products and services that really are approved of and you know, given the gold stamp of approval by the Louisiana Associated General Contractors. I'm only taking 2 more glass companies to be involved here. Donnie, which of those 2 options would work best for you? Well, I suppose it'd be the quarter page. That would be a good fit for us. And so there goes my board again. And so that's how that would sound. Then there's the post-close. Donnie, that's great. I'll tell you what. I'm going to send out to you right now the space reservation. We really appreciate you putting us to work for you. What this is going to do is it's going to reserve your spot. We're going to get you the best available spot with this. So the sooner I have this back, the sooner I can reserve that spot and make sure no one else gets it, and you know, we get a leg up on anyone else who comes in. So I'll get that out to you right now. It's 1:30. Is there any reason why we can't have that back in the next couple of hours? And then, well, sure, I'll get it out to you. I can get it to you by 5. All right, Donnie, sounds good. That's perfect. So that's an example of what all 3 of those sound like all together. It takes about 7 to 8 minutes for, you know, the average sales conversation to happen here at Naylor if you walk through these steps of the story. Here's what I want us to do right now. We're actually going to go into our handout, and I want to look at this. And by the way, as we're looking through here, I want you to understand this one thing. There's 2 things that if you can look at a sales conversation, it really is like the party conversation. You really need to make sure that you hit on 2 things. First off, you need to be a genuine human, right? We want real human interaction going on here, and you need to care for the other person and their business and what's going on. Be genuinely curious. But the other one is this: value. Communicate value. We'll talk about that in a minute. But for right now, let's go ahead and read page 2. Let's answer the questions, and let's have a discussion. And so there's page 2. You guys can look at that. Again, page 2, kind of ugly. We can improve the look of it, but that's going to be the materials, interactive. Okay, and then let's go back into the story. So again, guys, while we're doing any of these things, always make sure that the focus is on the other person and their needs. Now, I know that we've said in our 80-20 rule that it's we need to focus 80% of our conversation on the association and 20% on the website or the publication. But in conversation with people, you really, so that's when we talk 80-20 that way. But really, if we were looking at the conversation as a whole, there's even a greater 80-20. We really want to concentrate on spending 80% of our time speaking about the solutions and problems and really the scenario of the company, the story of the company and the person you're talking to, and 20% on us and our solution. So just keep it value weighted towards them. What's in it for me? And we've talked about this before. We have a whole other module after this where we'll go into the value, but I just want to make sure that you understand, without value, there is no conversation. All right, so let's go on from here. So here are those three parts again. Let's go and look again at introduction. So the introduction is where you qualify yourself to have a conversation with someone. It's where you show that you belong in the same room as them, right? It's the foot in the door. And this is something you really should be able to do without being interrupted. And I would encourage you, this is something that you can gain from reading through your script. You could go word for word on your introduction, all right? And what I mean by that is I don't want it to sound read, but your introduction could, if you memorize a script frontwards, backwards, and upside down with your eyes closed, and you could do it and you were able to put yourself into it, it's almost, you should be unstoppable here. This is a place, again, you're talking about you and the association. You ask a qualifying question. And one of those, or a couple of those, really there's two that happen here. The first one is, I'm calling from Naylor regarding this association. Are you familiar with it? Are you familiar with this group? And then the next one is, well, we're this kind of company in this industry. We're 80% of the industry or 90% of the industry, 4 out of 5. Is this a group you do business with? Okay, those are your two qualifying questions that will happen in almost every non-member conversation that you'll have. And then those are your checkpoints. If we can get past those checkpoints, if someone says, yeah, this is an industry for us, well, then that gives you permission to go into this purpose and description. All right, which is, well, good. The reason I'm calling is because I handled this resource, this valuable resource. Here's how it's used. So that is your introduction. All right. Again, during this time and during the rest of what's going on, we need to build value for what matters, the association, the products. I just want to make sure to bring that back there. For right now, let's go ahead and read through page 4 on the introduction. And so it looks like this. So read through page 4. It doesn't have this guy on there. So read through page 4. Now, all of these are broken up. It has the information. Then it has a mock conversation between you and a sales rep and a client or a prospect rather, and an explanation of some things. And usually, and in this case, it doesn't look very good, but there's a value point on the bottom. So there's that. And then after we go through the scenario of reading, we have an actual page from what it looks like in the script. So you will actually see what the script looks like. All right, so let's go ahead and read page 4 and 5 of this, and then we have an exercise at the end. I want you to read through the exercise. All right, so we've done that, we've discussed that, we come back here, and so that was introduction. Does that make sense, guys? That's how we get into the door. That's how we're invited to the party by what we're bringing to the table, and we best have some value in that introduction to be able to go along. So let's go on to the next part of this, though. It's the conversation. Now, this is the part that really cannot be scripted. So a conversation includes, we'll call them engaging questions, because your goal is to get this other person to engage with you, to lock on to you and you on them, and see if we can partner together. Then we have with them, what's in it for me? These are the parts of our value that need to be customized to what the other person/company needs. And then finally, at the end of this, we should begin to have a diagnosis, which is going to go into the next phase. So let's go ahead and talk about these parts as we're going through those. So questions, all right? If you're asking a question, rather, if you're answering a question, do you just want to get rattled off question after question after question after question? Of course not, right? There is an art to asking questions. There's also an art to giving value to what we do, to what we're offering. And I'm going to tell you, this is one of the places where we separate ourselves from all of the other people who are calling them, because typically a sales rep calls, and most of them, let's we separate ourselves from most of them because they don't have a script, they aren't prepared, so those ones are gone. But then the ones who do have a script and they are prepared only talk about themselves because they spent so long memorizing things and going through their value and what they have. That's all they can talk about is their own value. Now let's go back to the party scenario. Are you interested in talking to the person who only talks about themselves? No, it's not in our nature, right? So we need to find a way to pull that information out. Of course, we know that information gets pulled out through questions, but those questions need to be artfully done. There's a science of you start with the broad questions. That first question is going to be, and we'll put a bullet point in here in just a moment after we're done. The first type of questions are going to be what we talked about earlier, those qualifying questions. And then, so those would be right here. It's the qualifying questions. Are you familiar with this association? Is this a market for you? The next kind of questions are going to be, it's going to get more and more specific so we can give them a solution based on what they're saying. All right? So these we're calling engaging questions. How are you reaching this market? Can you tell me more about your products? How are you different than your competition? How do you like to market your company? So, in looking at the questions in front of you, do you notice a difference in the ways that they can be answered? The qualifying questions up at the top versus the engaging questions on the right-hand side. Which of these can be answered with a yes or no? Right, the qualifying questions, right? So which of these, if you look at engaging questions, you think about these require someone to actually dig into their brain and be able to pull out information in the format of a story. So those are important to us because it gives us really a window into that person's needs, their wants, their fears, their problems, and man, that's where our solution is born, is in those. The first questions, those qualifying questions, that's just about us being able to really have permission to continue the conversation. So we have those questions. We also have WIFMs, and I would say the WIFMs are right here. WIFMs, we have at Naylor specific value that we really offer. This is not exhaustive. We do offer more value than what's here, but these are the things that are pretty standard across most of our projects. So we are the industry. We go to 4 out of 5 of all the presidents, CEOs, and decision makers. I'm sorry, that actually is a combination. We are the industry is more like we're 90% of these people. We're 100% of those people. We are 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 of those people. So that's we are the industry. And the great thing is if someone does business with commercial contractors, in our case here, we're 4 out of 5 of those. So if you do work with commercial contractors, that's us, like 4 out of 5 of them. We have goes to key decision makers. This goes to the people who are saying yes and no, the people who are signing checks to do business with companies like yours on a day in and a day out basis. We're the presidents, we're the CEOs, we're the executives, we're the owners, we're the engineers, we're the, this changes within different industries, so we need to know that. Buying power. Our members are spending $1 million, they're spending $10 million. We're a $4 billion industry. Those are examples of buying power. Long-term relationships with suppliers. Our members tend to develop long-term relationships with suppliers, and for you to do business with us once means you're probably doing business with us multiple times. Association veto power. Every ad in here must be approved of by the association, and therefore our members do feel a level of safety doing business with companies that are featured in this resource. Fighting for the industry. We're the ones that are fighting to make sure that this industry is strong and healthy and that we can still do business in a way that that promotes our economy. And then index to advertisers. And depending on the scenario, it depends on whether or not this is really usable. But index to advertisers is, the great thing is you're not just featured in in an ad placement, but also a lot of our members utilize the index advertisers in the back where you are featured according to the specific product or service that you provide to this industry. So you're in the back according to that. So our members can go to the back, find all the providers of electrical supplies, and when they see you, they're not differentiating between full page, half page, quarter page here. You're on equal footing with all of these big spenders, even though you're only doing a quarter page. So it's a great way to maintain value if you have a smaller ad size. So let us do this. I want you to read through the conversation. And one point I would make before even doing that is that when we go through this, that with conversation and questions, what we're going to give you is it's the middle of your script. It cannot be done word for word. This is really, we're giving you a buffet to choose from for conversation. So you're going to have to apply the science and the art of conversation, where you go back and you ask a question, you acknowledge what the people are saying, and you hopefully can bounce over to a whiffum, a value point that would mean something to them. All right? And so the whole time we're building value, building value, building value, and the whole time we're learning. Open those ears and listen to people so that you can understand where they would find value to the solution that we're providing. All right? So read this and let's have a discussion. And so you would read page 4, 5, you're going to go all the way through page 8. Okay. Now, by the way, anytime we're reading those parts, like you would have, we have these little word bubbles here. Well, let's see. Here's a better example. When you have these word bubbles here, it would be good to have some class interaction by maybe reading it a la Shakespearean play in ninth grade. Have one person play the salesperson and someone else play the prospect. So we would read through that, talk about conversation, look through the actual script itself, answer these questions, and then we have an activity here. And this activity is going to be about, we're going to give you something that a client has said, or a question you've asked, something that a client has said, and then you have to, as a new hire, you have to fill in the blanks as far as how do you acknowledge what is being said, and then roll into a WIFM, a fitted value point that's custom fitted for the person that's talking. So an example, how are you currently getting your name out there, says this top bubble. Well, it's really about relationships for us, so word of mouth and our sales force, of course. And so, one answer that someone could put in this fill in the blank is, great, word of mouth is wonderful. Building relationships with Salesforce is exactly the way I'm sure that it works the best in this industry. Let me tell you about something that's great here. You can use this as a sales tool to do some reverse marketing with your sales, for your salespeople. And at the same time, you're developing those relationships you like to have. Our members tend to develop long-term relationships. So we have an acknowledgement, and then we built in a value, a WIFM, into that as well. And so they would do that for a few different tries. We would discuss that. And then after we're done with that, we go into the final part. All right, so finally we have the solution and close. Now the solution in close really has a few things you do not separate. Once you get to this phase, you are at the point of no return. You go all the way down this hill without stopping, all right? Or else it's bad for you. You must include all of these parts together. Size and price, create urgency and rebuild value, and ask the closing question. A size and a price means you're saying a half page is this, a quarter page is this. But then understand that when you give pricing, that's actually a low point in the conversation emotionally for people. We need to build our final case for them doing this before we ask the closing question. So we have to say, remember, we're only working with 2 companies such as yourself, and you will be in front of 4 out of 5 of all the commercial builders across the state. Now we go to the closing question. Which would work better for you, a half a page or a full page? All right, so all 3 of those always go together. Let's take a closer look at these parts here. So we have the sizes and prices. Sizes and prices. So it's best scientifically to offer fewer options. My recommendation is to offer 2 options and let them know about a prime position. Sir, based on what you're telling me, I'd recommend a full page at $1,099.50 or a half page at $599.50. That's size and prices. But I will let you know also that our outside back cover is available if you're interested in something like that. So full page, half page are put out there in size and prices. Not too many choices, it becomes difficult, and they have to think about it, which turns into a no. Next, create that urgency, rebuild the value, come up with a closing argument so that they don't run away from the size and price. Don't be the person that asks the size and price. They say, sir, a half page ad is only $929.50. That's not a closing question, all right? You need to tell them what you want from them. And that comes, we rebuild the value, create the urgency, give our final argument, our final case for them being here. And then we must ask the closing question. Man, you got to do that. That's the whole reason we called, okay? If you're not doing this, you're robbing them of an opportunity to really get involved here. So ask the closing question. We can do a choice close. We can, really at this point, if we've done our job correctly, it should be just as simple as, how would you feel about moving forward with the solution? We do have closing techniques we'll be teaching you later, but I want you to understand that the closing question is just the logical conclusion of, do you want to do this? Now, no matter what type of close you offer, no matter what kind of question you ask as a closing question, the one rule is this: stay silent after you ask the closing question. They say, well, I won't go over the saying because it's not put in terms of a winner. So let's go into how to pick a size real quick on on the sizes and prices, that first part. We have here a chart, and that chart is also going to be on your document. Well, it will be. I guess it's not now. We have a chart, and the chart will be included on the document. And really the idea is, in the beginning, a lot of people have questions about, well, what size ad do I recommend here? Well, here are some things. These are indicators that you would want to go with a large ad, large company. They understand their brand and their brand position. They have a really clearly defined message. They have large ads everywhere they go. They have a marketing department. They have a new product. They feel that their company is dominant. Overall, they're very professional. They have a very clear image, clean image. They're highly involved with association initiatives, and they're looking to grow market share and relationships. So those are your bigger advertisers. Now, some of these other things could indicate smaller advertisers. Maybe they're a smaller company, family-owned. They don't do a lot of marketing. Maybe a sloppy or an unclear message. Smaller ads or no ads anywhere else. They don't have a marketing department. Nothing new is happening. They just run with the pack, unrefined image. They're not involved, and they're not too concerned about it. So these are some indicators. I would solicit you for improvement on how to size up an ad. So that's out there. And obviously, I think graphically this will be a much better, clearer image. But we wanted to give a guideline for how to size people up. So again, never separate the size and prices, urgency and value, and the closing question. So let's go ahead and read the pages that we have here, page 10 through 12. And so that would start in, so actually it's page 10. So solution and close, go all the way through 12, and we have scenarios where we want you to write out your size and price, create urgency, rebuild value, and ask the closing question. A couple of scenarios to do that. And then finally we go into the post-close. Now the post-close is taken directly from the documents provided from James and the crew, so I don't see anything earth-shattering here, but that's it. After we're done with all of this, I would have the whole group do a read-through of their script. So they're going to do a silent read-through. And after they're done with their silent read-through, we're going to actually, we'll talk about all of the characteristics of an effective sales presentation. This is no different than what we're providing right now. All of the things, following all the steps, having your information ready, all of those things, using emotion and getting the ums and ahs and slang and iffy phrases out, all of those things. And then we give them guidelines on maybe who might say I'm ready now, and they can abbreviate their presentation, and then we do finally a role play. where we have a pitcher and a catcher. A pitcher is the pretend salesperson, well, the salesperson. The catcher is a pretend business, person they're doing business with. And what happens is they read through, the pitcher reads through the script. The catcher is a doormat. They're going to be nice. They're going to be agreeable, amiable to the whole conversation, and it's going to be an easy sale. The goal is just to get them understanding and walking through all of these steps all together, and then after they're done, they will switch roles and do that. Of course, the instructor is listening the whole time and able to figure out where people are at and what's going on. So, really the main changes here are going to be in regards to, that structure and how that's taught, and again, how we can come back to each of these individual spots and hone in and increase and improve knowledge, understanding, and skill level in each of these broken down parts. So there you go. So hopefully this makes sense to you guys. If you have any questions, I'm totally open, and you can give me a shout. I'm sure that Vera would offer the same as well. So anyway, thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.